everyone, and welcome to Black Kids in Outer Space. Today we have another captain. We have Ayesha McGowan. Wow, it's amazing. We're so stoked to have her here. She's on a quest to be the first African-American woman pro-cyclist. She's been featured everywhere and outside, ESPN, bicycling. And I know you just came back from California from competing in the Redland Bicycle Classic. So give us a little information about that and how did that go? And thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I got home yesterday. Last week I did the Redlands Bicycle Classic, and it's probably one of the biggest races in the United States, especially for women. And it's really challenging, but I had a lot of fun. It's one of the few times I really get to compete on like the super pro level. It's definitely not a local race. You have to be on a team to participate. And I found a spot on a composite team since I don't have a contract right now. And I was able to do the stage race, which is normally 5 days, but they had to cancel the first stage, which was a time trial because it was snowing on the mountain where they were supposed to hold it. So
I'm like still amazed about that because we got almost no snow in New Jersey. And then you went to California, my home state, and it was snowing. I was like, when I read that, I was like, that can't be right.
I think it was like 80 degrees in New York that day. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
So, you know what? I want to go back to that because I'm like, what's a composite team? What does that mean? Because I'm a utilitarian cyclist, so I don't know like all of these fancy cycling terms. But you're from New Jersey originally, right?
Well, I grew up there. I grew up in New Jersey, in Piscataway, New Jersey, and I went to Piscataway High School and graduated from there. But yeah, I guess not knowing cycling jargon is not a super bad thing. I'm still learning myself, but basically for races where you need to be on a team, sometimes there'll be composite teams either formed by the race organizers themselves or by people who just want to participate. And basically you get a group of women who are not on a team that has been invited to compete there, and they form their own little team of outlaws and they get to race. And so that's how I got to race Redlands the past couple of years.
But what I want to know is, you were a musician.
Yes.
Or you went to Berkeley College. I said, oh, give me your bio, and your bio is just bicycle stuff. But you went to a pretty highbrow like Berkeley music. You're a musician. How do you go from musician to I want to be a pro cyclist? How did that happen?
I guess technically I still am a musician, but I think bikes just kind of crept into my life and just kept consuming more and more of it over time. And that's, this goal to become the first female African-American professional road cyclist is the thing I'm doing now. I feel like I've lived my life in stages or in like kind of like compartments, if you will. So the first phase of adulthood was dedicated to being a musician, and now I'm on this bike journey, and who knows what may or may not come after that. I'm just living life as it comes to me, I guess.
What how did your family feel about you becoming a cyclist? Like, okay, you were a music teacher and you were, on this path, and how'd your family feel about you going, oh, I want to be a pro cyclist? Because that's not exactly like a typical thing. Even though it's that much different than being a musician, though.
Everyone's been super supportive. I've always been sort of a do whatever I feel like kind of spirit. So I don't think anyone was super surprised. I think they're just like, oh, I guess that's what she's up to now. And I have sort of an addictive personality, if you couldn't tell. So when I get into something, I really get into something. And so I guess as far as cycling is concerned, it wasn't an overnight, like I got a bike and then decided to be a pro. I started as a commuter in college, and over time eventually got more and more and more involved in bikes, and then eventually became competitive. And so maybe for them it seemed more natural. I don't think everyone fully understands the differences between where I was and where I am now in my family. to them, I'm just riding a bike. So, yeah.
Well, I know you kind of like decided you're going to be a cyclist around 2014, right? And so like around 2017, you started kind of winning like some substantial races, correct? Like you won like, what do you call this? It was something in California that you won and you came in like 9th place, and then you went to the Netherlands and you placed there. So you've been doing well in a relatively short amount of time, correct? I mean, I'm thinking usually people train a little bit longer. They're like, I'm going to be a cyclist. So they're just like 18 years old. They don't just kind of go, oh yeah, I'm 25. I think I'm going to go into cycling. Kind of like, you know, like I remember I wanted to be an ice skater, but then at a certain point it was kind of like, you know, you can't do that.
Oh, I don't like that very much. I mean, I think it's all perception. There are people who it took longer for them to get to where I am, and then there are people who did it in a shorter amount of time. I think everybody kind of just does whatever path their talent and work takes them on, and this has been mine, and it hasn't been as I don't know. I mean, I do feel like I've accomplished quite a bit in a short amount of time, and then there are times where I feel like I haven't done anything, and I think it's just kind of all how you look at it.
Well, I think you've done a lot in a short amount of time, because I'm just kind of like 2014. So I thought you were like, oh, maybe you were doing it since you were 17 or something like that. I'm like, no, you've done it pretty recently. Now, I'm going to bring up a person like a cycling movie that inspired me to cycle.
Okay.
Well, it didn't really inspire me to cycle. I saw American Flyers, and I saw Ray Don Chong, and I thought, oh, it's cool. I could be the girlfriend of a cyclist.
Oh,
just kidding.
I mean, you could, but we can.
I'm making a little joke.
Our own dreams.
We have breaking away, but I know the thing is that I know you talk a lot about representation and like why it's so important to represent, a wide variety. And like, so it's kind of like, you said when you first started cycling, there wasn't anybody like you there. You got out there and you kind of were like, oh, I'm the only Black woman here. I mean, how'd that feel, and how'd that part kind of inspire you?
Well, when I first started racing competitively, like I've been riding bikes for years, and I met tons of Black folks. It wasn't like I'm not the only one out here. I'm fully aware of that. But in competition, I met, I think, maybe 2 or 3 other women in New York City, of all places, that were women who could be like visually identified as Black, and then racing bikes as well. And I thought that was really odd, just because New York City is such a melting pot. There's just so many different kinds of people there. And then there was this little pocket where it wasn't as culturally diverse as, other places. And I found that very confusing, and I didn't understand it, because there's so many people who ride bikes. I just didn't understand why that didn't translate to the competitive level.
No, I understand that. So it's kind of like, when you saw that, you said, oh, I'm going to be the person that actually breaks that barrier. So, I mean, has there not been any other African-American women who've been pro cyclists? Is that like something that hasn't happened?
Not on the road. There are a couple of track cyclists, which...
I need to ask you the difference between, because I kept seeing road and track. And I'm like, okay, road. Okay,
so there's a couple different disciplines of competitive cycling. You've got road, which is what I focus on, which is literally riding on the streets. So you can have long road races or criteriums, which are short circuit races. And then you have track racing, which is on the velodrome. And those bikes are single speed, which means they only have one gear and they don't have any brakes. Mm-hmm. And they just go round and round on a track or the velodrome. There's also mountain biking, which is a mountain bike on trails and single tracks, and they have competition in that field as well. There's also cyclocross, which is kind of like a mix between mountain bike and road, where it can be off-road, but not on a mountain bike, more so. There's like, you can have a special cyclocross bike or a gravel bike, and that's also a sanctioned governing body that'll allow you to race that way. And then there's BMX, which also you can compete in BMX, and those are the smaller bikes, the tiny wheels, and you can do like tricks. So you have like the pump tracks. But there's a bunch of different ways you can compete. But on the road, which is like what people refer to like is like Tour de France type of cycling.
That's what I'm saying. That's a good one, right? No, I was kidding.
That's road cycling, and that in arena, there hasn't been an African American woman who has been pro that I can find. I'm still looking, but to this day, I have not found a single person that fits that bill. So that is why I'm on this mission to become the first one.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was like, I was looking too. I was kind of like, okay, let me do some Googling. I'm like, I'm sure she's done this though, but I'm like, she actually is the first like African American pro cyclist, Tour de France type person. So you actually, right. I mean, have you gotten any pushback or anything like that? Like,
lots of pushback.
What happened?
Of course. Okay, so it is important to note that I won't be the first Black woman to ever be a professional road cyclist. But specifically, I'm targeting being the first African American woman. And so there are a couple of women, either from the continent of Africa, or from Jamaica, or from other countries that have a different nationality completely that have done this. But even they are few and far in between, which is ridiculous to me. Even on in national championships for countries where the actual people are predominantly people of color. For many years, if you look at the podiums of those competitions, it wasn't women of color standing on the podiums. And that's starting to change because programs are happening and people are pushing to get more women of color in cycling globally, which is really cool. But as far as representation is concerned, even on the Black woman level, it is not where it should be, but there has been some. So, yeah.
But I mean, like politically, are people kind of like, well, why does she keep saying like, I want to be the first like African American women cyclist? I mean, anybody kind of, I remember like at one point in LA, we had a all kind of Black cycling group, and some people were, not everybody. I mean, typically it was like, oh, everybody was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. But has anybody, been kind of like, oh, why is she making this a big deal? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, because the thing is that since you're the only one, I don't know how inclusive that people might be.
It's a mixed bag. Some people are in the like, why should we care? Or stop ruining our sport? Or there's no barriers. So you're not oppressed, and like all like things that I never said. Like I've never claimed to be oppressed. Whatever. But yeah, there's been pushback, and not just from non-people of color. There've been pushback from people of color as well. Folks who think that this isn't a thing, that there is no barrier, that we should just focus on, getting more women into cycling, and that, having more Black women or women of color is not important. I get all kinds of feedback, and then I also get a lot of emails of people just trying to disprove that there has been a African American women before, but I still haven't gotten any actual proof of that. And like a lot of just random, mixed bag type of feedback. I think the most common ones are the why should we cares and the this isn't a thing and the stop trying to politicize cycling. It's not political and that type of stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so another thing I want, there's a movie about, I guess, cycling in Quebec. Have you seen that movie?
I don't think so.
Oh, you haven't? It's called 2 Seconds.
No, I've never seen it.
Okay, I it's okay. Don't worry about it. I just kind of like was wondering about it. But hold on, let me. There's another question that I have here in regards to cycling. You keep saying that you want to be the first, but kind of aren't you already doing it?
Well, I mean, I want to be the first professional, and I'm not a professional yet. So
You're not yet. Professional?
No, I don't have a contract. I'm not on a pro team. So no, I'm an elite cyclist still. So I race at a very high level. I can race with the professionals, but I'm not technically a professional yet. I'm still working towards that.
I'm actually kind of shocked about that because I'm like, you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, so what would it take for you to become a professional?
That's a great question. Still figuring that out. But my understanding so far of things is that my definition of success, I guess, is that I would have a contract with a team, with a pro team. So
you would have a contract. That's how you view yourself as being successful.
Well, in this particular mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm actually trying to get my plug together. That's why I have my assistant behind me. Okay, But because I mean, I think that you're doing a lot of great stuff. I mean, do you think that because of, you know, in regards to you being the first, do you think that's an issue or no?
What do you mean?
Like you being the first African American woman, do you think people are kind of like, we want to focus just on the racing aspect of it?
What? I guess I'm not completely understanding your question. Like, what do you mean?
Well, I guess sometimes, you know, if somebody is a person who's doing a team, do they think that you're a distraction? Do you think that they might think that you're a distraction? I mean, I know that's kind of a weird question. That's kind of
no, it's not a weird question at all. I get that question. I didn't understand what you were asking me, but I get that question. That is one of my, I guess, concerns, I guess, that my, you know, advocacy and the voice that I've created for myself is so loud that it makes people apprehensive about wanting me to be a part of what they're doing. It makes them apprehensive about making me want to be a part of their team. And that's kind of funny to me because when I'm actually racing, like when I'm in a race setting and when I'm, you know, in the act, I don't talk about it unless someone talks to me about it. I'm not like, I don't go to the team and tell all the white people what they need to do. Like, that's not what I do. When I'm racing my bike. That is what I'm there for. And that is my only focus. I'm not, I'm not like carrying around protest signs and telling everybody how to race their bike. That's not my position. I really, when I'm racing, I'm just there in that moment, I'm there for myself. I'm focused on my goals competitively as an athlete and just trying to be the best bike racer that I can be. But, you know, when I get home and when I'm not in that setting, then yeah, I'm very vocal about why I'm doing those things. And I do think that can be prohibitive because I don't know that everyone fully understands why I need to do what I'm doing. Like, why does it matter? Why can't I just, you know, be quiet and race my bike like everybody else? And the answer is I'm not like everybody else. And that's the point.
No, I mean, that's what I get too, because I mean, I think the thing is that, you know, I know a lot of people in the cycling community. I know a lot of African-American women, West Indian women, and we talk about you. And we're like very upset that you haven't gotten that kind of like support. We're like, she's been out here. She's like awesome. We don't get it. We don't understand. Like I feel like we need to like, I don't know what we need to do, but we're going to get together. We're going to help you out. We're going to make it happen for you. Because we've been having discussions about this. But I think the one thing is great about you is that you also do advocacy work, you know, even outside of just yourself. You're kind of like, you know, you've worked with We Bike New York and also InTandem, which is a bicycle organization that gets people who have disabilities to out there riding their bicycles. Can you give me some like how'd you get involved in that kind of part of your life?
So when I first moved to Brooklyn, I joined a group called We Bike NYC, and it was still forming at that time. And the We and We Bike stands for Women's Empowerment. And it was founded by Liz Jost, and her whole goal was to have women bike friends because she didn't really know how to find them. So she just created this whole group, and it turned into this whole other animal. But the organization's purpose was to give women opportunities to just ride bikes, whatever it may be. So you ride to get ice cream. And in my case, we rode to the velodrome, and that's how I, you know, went to the track clinic. And we rode to what was then Achilles, which was a program where you could ride tandem bikes with people with disabilities. And so I volunteered for that day. And that's where I, you know, became a part of that. And they were looking for a coordinator. And me being me, I jumped in to help coordinate and have been with them ever since. And now we're in tandem and still going strong. And they just did the 5-row this weekend. They had like 120 people on a team, and it's really cool. Yeah.
I need pictures of that. I need pictures. You know, I was a preschool special education visually impaired specialist.
Yeah,
I know it's a really long title, so I'm like all excited about that. I actually have my kids like riding bikes and stuff. So I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Awesome.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think it really influenced and impacted how I go about advocacy, because people with disabilities are definitely an underrepresented group, and they're definitely an underestimated group. Mm-hmm. And especially people with visual impairment, they're physically capable of doing all of the things you and I are physically capable of doing. They just can't see. Mm-hmm. And so to have that limitation to think about having that limitation keep me from riding a bike, like I can't even like fathom that. So it was really cool to be able to share my love of cycling and volunteer and help other people, and just like hearing the joy and like experiencing the joy of other people riding bikes so closely to you, and knowing, it's completely self-propelled, like selfish in every way, but just knowing that I'm able to give them that experience was so fulfilling for me and so fun for me. And I just learned so much about the world just working in this organization. And it really just changed the way that I interacted with other people, because I learned not to assume so many things. And yeah, I think it just really still impacts how I carry myself as an advocate.
And I also want to know about this virtual ride thing that you do, where it's kind of like you kind of go, okay, let's all get together and like have these goals. What is this virtual ride? And the thing is, I've heard it lots of places, so they kind of explain it to people who kind of don't know what it is.
Okay, so before the virtual ride, I did want to throw in a plug for the donut ride, which is my current InTandem project for the people with disabilities. On August 17th, we're holding our annual donut ride, and we basically ride throughout New York City and eat donuts all night, and it's really, really cool. But thedonutride.com is where you can find more information about that. But as far
down there,
right. But as far as my personal virtual ride, every winter, it's a way. It's also a very selfish thing that I do to get other people to join me in suffering through my winter training. But the goal is to get people motivated to ride throughout the winter, and also to build the community that I would like to see. So create a truly inclusive, diverse community filled with people of all types, and all kinds of cyclists coming together. And how it works is you sign up on my website and you pick a goal that works for you. So for some people, it's I want to ride 30 miles, or I want to ride 200 miles, or I just want to get on my bike 5 times this week, or whatever it is. And that is your goal, and everybody is working together to achieve their individual goals, and it's called Do Better Together. And so the whole idea is it lasts for multiple months, and every month you just want to do a little bit better than you did the previous month. So maybe you didn't hit your goal last month, you work a little harder the next time. And it's just interacting and learning from each other and sharing like tips and tricks and all kinds of things. And I send out an encouraging email every morning. I don't know, I really enjoy it. I think it went really, really well this year, and I got a lot of feedback, and you have the opportunity to win a free bike, which is really cool. So
I actually I love that idea, but I think it's like, I think it's a concept we need to like all kind of like spread, like, this is what this means, a virtual ride. I'm like, this is it's such a great idea, because it's like you're letting people of all abilities and all situations, kind of giving them that ability to ride a bicycle. Now, I have another question. When's your next race?
I'm not sure. I'm debating on whether I'm going to race between now and when I do the Dirty Kansas 200, which is a gravel race. And I've never done a gravel race before, so I'm really excited about it. It's a 200-mile gravel race in Emporia, Kansas, and it's on June 2nd. And so, yeah, it's going to be really challenging and really hard. And then after that, I think my next race will be the North Star Grand Prix, which is another stage race. And the stage race is a race that has multiple days. So I think Tour de France went much, much, much shorter. I think this one is like 4 or 5 days with like 6 stages maybe.
And how can we support you? Like, what can we do to support Ayesha in her goal of being the first pro African-American women cyclist? And so that, what can we do to support you? Because we want to do all we can to support what you do.
You can support me. You can find more information about me on my website, which is aquickbrownfox.com. You can buy shirts, you can donate, you can follow me on social media at I suppose, AYESUPPOSE. And when you see opportunities for representation, you can raise your voice. If you see things that don't look right, you can raise your voice. I guess just being boosting the signal that I'm trying to broadcast is super helpful. But I guess there are a lot of ways of supporting, and just go to my website and you can find some of them there.
So what we're going to do is we're going to share all the information. The donut ride on the 17th of September.
Of August.
The other rides that you said you were going to do, your website, your Twitter account. We're going to share it everywhere.
Sharing is caring.
We thank you so much for coming to Black Kids in Outer Space, because we know you just finished your race. We watched you on Instagram and Twitter, and we're like, yay, go Ayesha. So thank you for sitting with us and visiting us on our spaceship. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye. Black Kids in Outer Space. Black kids in outer space. Black kids in outer space. Urban planning, walking, bicycling, and more in our space.